Ronald Read, a retired gas station attendant, had just passed away. Nothing about his life was extraordinary except for the fact that he was worth $8 million. This was a surprise to much of Read's local community. His stepson told the press he was a hard worker, but I don't think anybody had any idea that he was a multimillionaire. So Read didn't have that type of career path that you typically associate with a multimillionaire. So how did he pull it off? Well, here are the 3 techniques that made him wealthy. He seemed to have a reputation for being extremely frugal. He likely could have given Warren Buffett, who is famously frugal by the way, a run for his money. Read's friends remember him driving a second-hand car and using safety pins to hold his worn-out coat together. He continued to cut his own firewood well after his 90th birthday. It's a painfully straightforward approach. Spending less money than you earn leaves you with more money to invest and generate wealth over the years through more investment. Read's friend and neighbor said,
"I'm sure if he earned $50 a week, he probably invested 40.
And that leads us to the second technique on the list, which is investments. After he died, the Wall Street Journal analyzed Read's personal portfolio. They discovered that many of his possessions were held for several years, if not decades, and had delivered immense returns over that period. Read's portfolio included heavyweights like Wells Fargo, Procter & Gamble, and Colgate-Palmolive. Again, here's another parallel between Read and Buffett. If those names sound familiar, it's probably because you've seen some of them on Buffett's portfolio too. In fact, Berkshire Hathaway had a sizable position in Wells Fargo for several years, and Procter & Gamble is still a part of their portfolio. Both investors had prioritized holding long-term positions in undervalued and overlooked companies. That's what helped Read create his multi-million-dollar fortune. And for both investors, the key ingredient was time and patience. And the third technique on the list is longevity. Ronald Read lived to 92 and Buffett is 92 years old now. Both investors benefit immensely from living and working longer than average. In fact, 90% of Buffett's fortune was generated after his 60th birthday. If he had retired early in his 50s, most people never would have heard of Warren Buffett. The power of compounding is magnified over long periods of time. In other words, investing for longer is more likely to deliver better returns. Buffett's compounded annual growth rate of 9.17% would have turned $1,000 into $9,000 in 25 years, and 13,930 years. To be fair, none of us can control how long we live, unless we try to eat healthy all the time. Instead, starting early and staying in the market for as long as possible is probably the best strategy. It's also advisable to let your winners ride for longer. Taking profits too early or trading your positions too frequently adds costs and diminishes the power of compounding. So let's take that to heart. Live below your means, invest what you have left over, and stay healthy.